Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? A gracious good morning to you, good people. It's your girl KB. You know what I do, and you know why I do it. It is Tuesday morning. It is June 17th, and it is 2:48 in the a.m. And as you can hear, I'm a little congested this morning. I had a major allergy headache yesterday. I've been totally incapacitated. I've had a upper respiratory thing going on for a hot minute, and I guess I'm on the tail end of it. But you can hear the congestion. Um, I had a blinding headache yesterday. Uh, I'm just a hot mess, basically. It's supposed to be summer here in the Bay Area, but in the mornings you're freezing to death. In the afternoon you get a little bit of sun, but that's about all you get. A little bit. Um, yeah, so my body just doesn't know what to do. Anywho, I'm sitting here listening to somebody on the backside of the building moan and groan, coming out of whatever it is that they took. But they're sounding like Bob Troll from the land of Make Believe, Mr. Rogers. I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Troll, but he talks in this make believe language, and it sounds something like zap, 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 zap. Zap, 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 zap. And somebody interprets for him. That's what I'm hearing outside. And I believe I know who it is. So I will see them first thing this morning. Yeah, but they're definitely coming off of something. And this sounds like a bad crash. Anywho, yeah, I keep saying anywho. I want to talk about two movies that I watched this weekend. And I'm sure most of you have seen them. The first being Sinners. I bought Sinners as soon as it was released for the public. And I rewatched it was it yesterday? I can't even remember. The weekend was a blur because I was so sick. I missed my baby's 1-year-old birthday. And by baby, I mean my great nephew. That's how sick I was. But I knew it was going to be a bunch of little kids around, and I didn't want to get any of the kids sick or my family, because there's a lot of babies on this particular side of the family. So there you have that. But yeah, I watched Sinners. And I started to watch Straw this weekend. But the first, I want to say 10 minutes made me so angry I had to revisit the movie. And the reason I got angry was because of the Glenn Turman character and just that angry, angry, angry uh, character. I just want to say character. I'm not gonna assign any particular characteristic other than anger. So I had to stop watching that, but I came back to it, and that movie hit close to home on so many levels. It hit close to home because, I grew up with a mom who was always constantly robbing Peter to pay Paul, even though she had a good paying job. And the reason she was always robbing Peter to pay Paul and, garnished and all this other good stuff, I'm going to tell you, because I had a no good father. Bottom line, that's it, that's all. The man was rotten to his core. Now, I want to say my siblings and I have the same parents, which in and of itself was something growing up in the hood, because not everybody could say that. But for the most part, the majority of the kids that we hung around had the same parents. But my father, I mean, he came from a dysfunctional, corrupt family. And by corrupt, I mean morally. And attempted to pass that on. And for the most part, he did to one of the male siblings. Not gonna mention any names, but you guys know, if you know me personally, you know who I'm talking about. But that particular individual's son is a good man. By a good man, he has 3 kids. He takes care of his kids. He does what he needs to do for his kids. I mean, he attends school functions. He cooks. He washes dishes. And like I said, he's a good man. He works, and he's present in his kids' lives for some things other than yelling. Although he has been known to lecture far too long. You know, that part. But other than that, no serious character defects, no corruption on that level. So, my mom, let me tell you about my mom. My mom worked various shifts because, as I shared, she was an RN early on in life. But she constantly went to school. When she was working days, she would go to school at night, different semesters over a period of time. My mom worked her way up to director of nursing. My mom bought the house that we grew up in, and she bought it with the money from her parents' death. As I shared, my father was seriously abusive towards my mom. And, we reached a point of serious escalation, and we begged my mother to leave. By that time, we were teenagers. So we knew, we could survive. And my mom left the house that she bought. My father eventually sold that house. And the way the laws were written at that time, he kept the majority of that money. I think he sent my mother $2,000. He also, sent us to live with my mom. After my senior year of high school, my sister was a freshman. My brother had already left. So, we grew up under a great deal of duress, and a lot of my anger is attributed to that man. A lot of my dysfunctional behavior is attributed to that man, and growing up in that chaos. And it was chaotic. It was extremely chaotic. And don't get me wrong, I need to say this. My mother was not a saint by any measure, other than, she took care of her children. And, I wanted for nothing. But in their relationship, there was a lot of dysfunction. And, I shared that I study the word love and the meaning of love, and how, we as a people act, on that word. And the more I study, the more I realize I don't know. I need to be honest about that. But coming up, it was rough. So straw hit home on a lot of levels. Need to also share that many of the garnishments that were attached to my mother's check was a result of my father's behavior. The credit was extended to him, but because of community property and all that other good stuff, those dysfunctional laws that were on the books, patriarchal laws that were on the books, my father had no qualms about his children not eating or struggling. My father has even stolen the rent money. Now, I grew up in New York, where it snows heavily, in one of those areas. And there were times we were sitting in the winter without heat. And I had one of those grandmothers that would slip folded up bills in my mother's hand. you know, this don't tell where this came from kind of secrecy. And a lot of times we ate because of my grandmother. A lot of times we had heat and light because of my grandmother. We always had a roof over our head, but, you know, we know struggle too. So, like I said, straw hit home on so many levels, you know, and there are sisters who will go above and beyond to help. And I recognize those sisters. I acknowledge those sisters. Those sisters that will build up. And there's those bitter sisters who have been damaged by life, you know, in the circumstances, you know, that the Taraji P character was in. There's such sisters who have been damaged to the point where they're bitter, like the landlord. And they have to take that out and tear down other sisters. So, like I said, I watched the movie, but there was far too many parallels for me to be comfortable with. And then Sinners. Man, I need to talk to somebody about Sinners because there's so many layers and levels of subtleties and sickness about our society that was projected in that movie. And I especially like the aspect of the vampires, the vampiric nature of our society, in that a lot of people draw from the culture. I call them culture vultures. You know, they feed on the culture, but despise the people. You know, feed on the culture, but want to leave a people dead. That is a very deep movie. The symbolism in that movie is amazing. And most people will miss all the subtleties of that movie. It's just like They Not Like Us. All the symbolism in that song that depicts the racism and the hatred in our society today. That's what Sinners is. So, please watch it. I'm going to touch on this subject a little bit more in a minute, but please watch those two movies.